everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur, and today we are breaking down Inter Miami's 4-2 come-from-behind victory that I think kicked the season off last night against Orlando City in Orlando. Inter Miami's first win in Central Florida. They get the dub. It's in come-from-behind fashion. It was a very fun game, a very good atmosphere, and I thought just potentially one of the games we're going to look back on this season as having been the most fun, or one of the most fun games that we had this season. So we're going to talk all about it. But before that, Saur, my friend, my co-host, how are you feeling today, my man?
I'm feeling great. The emotions have finally settled down. I thought it was a bit of a roller coaster yesterday. I was so ready to just go on a 3-hour rant about how I hate everything about this Inter Miami team. But thankfully, Messi did not disappoint. The team did not disappoint. And we are off to the races. It's huge that Inter Miami has finally started the season, scored their first goal, got their first win, got the comeback win against their rivals. So many good things happening at the final whistle. And I just think it was very important for Inter Miami to win this, especially with the run of away games that we have coming up ahead. Puts us in a good mood, and I think this episode is going to be a lot more fun now that Inter Miami has secured the victory. How are you feeling?
I'll be honest. Couple things. One, it's noon Eastern on Monday, so it's only been about 14 hours since the game ended. Second, I rewatched the first half of the game before I went to bed last night, so I am on the tired side, so I apologize if I have any sort of brain lapses during this episode. And other than that, I feel pretty good about what we saw last night. I thought it was a fun soccer game, and I thought it showed Inter Miami when they're going up against a team that is less talented than them what they can do, even if it isn't all working 100%. And in this league, because of the parity, if you want to win games, especially on the road, you kind of have to be working at 100%, with the exception being if you have one of the best teams on paper in MLS history, you can get away with it on just talent. And I thought that's what we saw last night. Lots of things that aren't quite clicking, but none of them stopping this team from beating a below average Orlando City team. Quick hitters before we get to it. Abdel Talabi, who was Inter Miami's first super draft pick this past year, first round pick, was spotted training with Monterrey FC, which is a USL club. So I think he's not going to make the team, and he's not going to join Inter Miami. He is 24 years old, so I think from his perspective, doesn't make sense to go play MLS Next Pro with Inter Miami if you don't feel like there's a chance this season that you're going to end up on the first team. So he's going to the USL. I don't think he's going to end up signing with Inter Miami. And I looked for updates on Keenan Hott, who was our next pick, and Mamadi Gianni, who was the other guy that got some run in the preseason. Couldn't find an update on them. But what I will say is MLS Next Pro kicked off on Friday night for Inter Miami, and neither of them were on the team sheet for the MLS Next Pro team. So, make of that what you will. Inter Miami probably not getting any gems from that super draft pick, although I guess we will still see with Keenan Hott and Gianni. I think the fact that they weren't with the team for that preseason, in-season friendly against Independiente del Valle in Puerto Rico probably is telling that none of them are going to be with Inter Miami, really, this moving forward.
Yeah, it's only the 1% that usually make it out. And we'll see. Keenan Hott was a prospect that a lot of people spoke about, but it will be interesting to see how the coaching staff has viewed the progress over the preseason. I know there's a couple of players from the academy coming up in the midfield and in those positions as well. So there's not much room for blossoming some of this talent. And I'm sure wherever they go, they're going to always have the memory of being selected by Inter Miami in the super draft. So that's going to always stick with them. And we'll see what happens with the likes of Gianni and Keenan Hott. But this team is stacked, and it's going to be hard to break into it.
Yeah, especially if you're not comfortable being a last guy on the bench type player for it, and that is understandable for a guy in his early 20s, not an 18-year-old that wants to establish himself as a professional soccer player. I think that makes a ton of sense. The other thing I want to just mention: Friday night, Inter Miami 2 played their first game in the MLS Next Pro season. There was a kid on the bench named Zidane Cadet who did not play. He's 16 years old, still very young. We'll see if he actually gets an opportunity this year at that level. But he is one of the sort of prized prospects in MLS at that age group. He's a striker. And so Inter Miami not having a ton of success out of their academy over the last couple of years and in the age groups between that and the 20 guys that are 21-year-olds old now in Noah Allen and Kramaski and David Ruiz. So kind of a big gap there that Inter Miami didn't produce anyone, but he is a guy that I think Inter Miami fans should keep an eye on this season, especially if he gets a lot of run in MLS Next Pro. And that's all I have to say about it. He didn't even play in that game, so we'll see. Okay, anything else before we get into this game?
Oh, I'm ready for it, man. I want to talk all about Inter Miami winning against their rivals.
Well, let's talk about where it goes bad first, because it starts in the 18th minute. Ivan Angulo with an interception on a pass from Rodrigo de Paul to Facundo Mura. Angulo then with space in behind because Facundo Mura is out of position at this point. Finds Pasalic inside the box and then Pasalic with slotting it home really nicely through the legs of Allen and Mikael. Dane St. Clair gets there, gets a hand on it, does not make the save. I think that was disappointing. But regardless, it's 1-0 Orlando City after 18 minutes. And I think in a way that was against the run of play. Really against the run of play 5 minutes later in the 24th minute when Noah Allen gets dribbled past by Griffin Dorsey, who then enters the final third before sweeping it over to Martin Ojeda. And then he continues his run inside the box, occupies space in the box, gets the ball back from Ojeda, touches it off to Ojeda, and then Ojeda with a really nice outside of the foot curling shot around Dane St. Clair. And all of a sudden, Inter Miami down 2-0 in a game that we felt they should be dominating. It did feel like they were the better team at this point, and down 2-0 already. And I should just say there's a American football player named Tavian St. Clair, and I'm going to mix those two names up so many times this season, so I apologize. Dane St. Clair. Inter Miami down 2-0 at the half. And it was bad times because they're coming off of a 3-0 loss to LAFC. They have not scored yet this season. Thoughts at that moment?
I think Inter Miami left off the LAFC game playing slightly better than that first half and then picked it off from exactly there. The way we started that first half against Orlando, Inter Miami dominating the ball, creating chances, but not clear chances. We were lacking that sharpness in front of goal, but still, it looked like a dominant display. Sharp, good passing, some good interplays, just no end product. And then Orlando did to Inter Miami what Inter Miami did to a lot of teams last season. 2 chances and scored 2 goals. And we're just thinking to ourselves, how are we 2-0 down against this Orlando City team? That second goal, very well constructed from them. I don't even think they realize how well they combined to create that. But Noah Allen gets beat and on our left-hand side, and then the interplay between their 2 front players was quite dangerous to cut us apart. Most of it was Inter Miami being really poor in specific moments and Orlando capitalizing on it.
Yeah, I did feel like there was a little bit of an overreaction I saw from the Miami fan base at halftime. They were playing well. They were creating opportunities. They were forcing Maxime Crepeau to make some nice saves. We will talk about it, but there was some really nice movement and opportunities created in the final third that just didn't get capitalized on, but because Inter Miami was just off by half an inch or because Crepeau made a nice save or whatever. Like, it wasn't that they were getting outplayed. I thought they were outplaying Orlando City, and it was kind of an unfortunate 2-0 deficit. Inter Miami makes the change at halftime. Silvetti comes in and immediately makes an impact. 49th minute, Silvetti gets the ball from distance and says, "No worries, I got this. Game on." Curler into the back of the net from deep. Fantastic moment from a very talented kid in Mateo Silvetti, who I thought got the game going. If you let that game go into the 65th minute, it's still 2-0. Even if you are peppering opportunities, it is still Orlando City's game. And as it gets closer and closer to the end line, with you down by a goal or 2, it becomes easier for Orlando City to just bunker down and see the game out. Getting that first goal right away, getting Inter Miami back in the game, I thought was huge, and it was a great moment from Mateo Silvetti. And then the big one came 8 minutes later, in the 57th minute, Messi whips it past Crepeau after Segovia leaves it for him. Berterame Segovia involved in one of those moments where we've seen a lot with Suarez, Messi, Jordi Alba at the top of the box, kind of this super intricate interplay where there's four guys around them and they just keep holding possession until the shot comes open. And ultimately, that's what happened in this game, except it wasn't Jordi Alba and Suarez. It was Berterame and Segovia, which I think is a positive sign. And then Messi with the clean-cut finish, as always. 2-2, 57th minute, game on. Inter Miami, I thought, controlled much of the rest of the game. Couple opportunities for Orlando City, but nothing super dangerous until the 85th minute. Silvetti heads it forward to Berterame. Berterame spins past David Brecalo of Orlando City and creates space for himself, whips it into Messi at the edge of entering the box. Messi leaves it off for Segovia, who whips it in. 3-2 Inter Miami. Inter Miami wins. Bonus goal and a cookie for Lionel Messi on the free kick goal in the 90th minute. 4-2 Inter Miami. Florida is pink. And finally, we get that dub in Inter & Co Stadium and make it feel like home.
The biggest difference in that second half was things started to click our way. That first shot that Silvetti got the goal from, in the first half, that would have probably hit an Orlando player. The goal that Messi scored in the first half, that would have probably been defended and booted out by an Orlando player. So it was fine margins, and those fine margins were finally falling into place for Inter Miami. And I think you mentioned this, but we scored at the exact time that we needed to. Score early in the first half, and then you can start putting the pressure on. And Orlando starts retreating more and more and more. And I thought Inter Miami, you could see, grew into their own, got back a little bit of their mojo that was missing since the start of the season, where the interplays were coming off. You were seeing players get a lot more involved. Obviously, the changes that Javier Mascherano made had a big difference in the team, but everything just started to fall into place together. We played with a lot more confidence, and I thought more than anything, the quality just overwhelmed Orlando. And the 4-2 scoreline was maybe a fair reflection of what the game was in its entirety. I would have said maybe even a couple of goals more from Inter Miami could have been the case, but just glad that it eventually ended up going our way, because losing to this Orlando team would have been very, very embarrassing. And Florida's pink, bring it on.
Yeah, I want to get back to sort of rivalry, because I think that is something we really saw in full display last night. But let's talk about Orlando City for a few minutes, because this was, I think, the start the season off type of moment. I know the LAFC game was a big game, but Inter Miami didn't really get anything going. And in this game, they did, and that felt like it really kicked off the season. But I do want to, hesitate to say we are back, because I don't think this Orlando City team is very good as currently constructed. They have some really good attacking players. Martin Ojeda, Marco Pasalic, I think are excellent in this league, and they are surrounded by players that can sort of facilitate them in the attack. Duncan McGuire, Tyrese Spicer, Angulo, etc. But man, that midfield is really weak. Guski, the 19-year-old who got the start, was given 2 yellow cards. I thought he was, he's a 19-year-old making his first ever start. Nolan Miller in defense, I thought, was better than Iago last week, but still looked like a rookie, because he is. And David Brecalo is okay second center back, but if he's your lead in defense, I think that's a problem. And Tahir Reed Brown is getting his first ever start. Like, this was a young, inexperienced, not particularly talented team. I want to talk about the roster construction in a minute, but I do think it's important to say I'm not sure the team as currently constructed is going to make the playoffs. Obviously, we've heard of Antoine Griezmann, and so that could easily change. But as of right now, I don't think the team we saw last night, even with the guys injured coming back, is a playoff team. So, great win. What do you want to do against non-playoff teams? Kind of control the game and dominate and score a ton of goals and try things and iron out your mistakes and all that stuff. So I thought it went exactly like you want it to go. Took a little bit longer to get there than I would have liked, but ultimately...
Not exactly.
Well, yeah, you just want to score 4 in the first half and the second half, not just only the second half. But yeah, I think keeping in mind that Orlando City is probably below average MLS team at the moment.
This should have been the standard for Inter Miami. I think Orlando City going forward is quite decent, so I wasn't surprised that they scored 2 goals. I was just surprised that it wasn't working at all for Inter Miami, and Inter Miami went 2-0 down. My prediction was 7-2, so I expected Orlando to actually get on the score sheet. That's because they have talented players up top. They've got 3 or 4 really good pieces who can do some good stuff in the box. But they've got gaping holes in the middle, problems in the back line. Their goalkeeper is very good, actually. It's.
Yeah.
I was worried that Inter Miami is going to pepper their box too much, but we're not going to be able to score because a Brad Guzan situation will materialize in goal for Orlando City. Thankfully, that didn't happen. They've got a good goalkeeper. As you said, though, even if Antoine Griezmann joins Orlando, I don't think they have the pieces that surround him to be challengers, but also make the playoffs. I think this is a fairly weak Orlando side, and Inter Miami should be happy that they were able to dispatch them. But this is not the standard by any means. You have to do this against better teams as well. So I thought they gave a good account of themselves yesterday, but eventually the talent and quality of Inter Miami was a little bit too much against the inexperience of Orlando. So all I can say is thank you for a good game and see you next time.
Yeah. I want to spend a minute talking about their roster construction because the deeper you look into it, the weirder it gets. Martino Heda and Pasalic, I think, are both really good players, and they're DPs, and that's like a great foundation for your attack. You add Antoine Griezmann as your third DP, and that feels like a trio that could really do damage in this league, especially if they can click in the way we've seen some, like what we've seen with LAFC and their new star. But once you go past that, it really starts to confuse me. They spent 2 U22 spots on attackers in Thiago and Luis Otavio, who we saw Thiago last night. And they have Duncan McGuire as like a guy that somehow has to fit into that. Tyrese Spicer, another young guy that's an attacking player. Justin Ellis, an 18-year-old that they just signed from as a homegrown. Like, it feels like they've invested so much of their resources in attack, and then their midfield is kind of bad, and their defense feels really bad. So I feel like their roster construction is super lopsided in attack, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to bring in an Antoine Griezmann if you already have 2 U22 attackers and 2 DP attackers, because then you're just spending your whole roster budget, on high-level attackers, and your midfield and defense suffer for it. It feels weird to me. I don't like it at all.
Maybe they score a bunch of goals, but then they also concede a bunch of goals, which will make exciting games for the Orlando
But
fans. But
but they can't all play at the same time, I guess is the point.
yeah, I think it's unless you adopt the Inter Miami tactics that we came down to yesterday, which is throw 10 attackers in the field, 1 defender, no goalkeeper, and go with that. No, I think this is a very unbalanced squad. And that is even without Antoine Griezmann. You add him to the mix and it becomes even more lopsided, as you said. So I'm not super worried about Orlando. Maybe they click together eventually and get things going, but I think this is going to be a long season for their fans. And maybe Antoine Griezmann can make it a little bit better for them, but I wouldn't pin my hopes too much on that. And then Oscar Pareja might actually have to be let go eventually if things don't change for them.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the rivalry because that felt like a rivalry game. I know that there has been some Inter Miami fans that don't want to lock in Orlando City as sort of the quote unquote rival. But man, it just feels so obvious. We'll see. I know Nashville is another team that we have some history with. We'll see what that looks like in a couple weeks. But last night, there was an intensity that I thought matched what Inter Miami had with LAFC. That first game against LAFC, it's the big game of the weekend. It's a night game. It's at the Coliseum. It's 75,000. It's the 2 best teams in the league. Everyone wants to be the best and prove themselves in that opener and make a statement. And the fact that this game I thought had a similar level of intensity, even though the quality, especially from Orlando City, is not quite as high. This is a rivalry, man, and they are really into it. Messi with the asking the Orlando City bench if they want his autograph. There was a moment late where Mikael wins the ball off Thiago, who is also Brazilian, and is sort of like barking at him saying, you think you can try and come at me? Good luck. And just like the whole atmosphere. Obviously, we heard the chant in the crowd of what they thought of Inter Miami throughout much of that game. I thought the atmosphere was incredible. I thought the environment was a lot of fun. And the fact that Inter Miami gets to go win that game and be brash about it and talk their talk, I thought was great. There was a moment, first 10 minutes of the game, Rodrigo de Paul, as you probably remember, was very hot-headed to start the game, let's say. He was yelling at his teammates, and Messi had to say something to him to calm him down after about 10 minutes. But in that first period, he has a foul, and the referee goes up to him and says, is trying to tell him to calm down, and the referee says, "Come here." And Rodrigo
He
de Paul
says,
goes
"Come
to the
to me."
referee. He
Yeah.
says, "You come here."
Yeah.
That was, I thought, pretty cool, and maybe not something I would think is normally that cool or fun, but in this game, I think the level of brashness I like from the team in this particular game is way higher, and I thought they showed it last night. I thought it was a lot of fun.
They had a chip on their shoulder. They won the MLS Cup last season, but they lost 2 games to Orlando in regular season. We allowed them to do the double on us, and this is a rivalry game. I know MLS fans tend to have this idea that we can, of course, create a rivalry with different teams. Doesn't have to be geographically the same, but I think when you come from the leagues in Spain and England, in even probably South America, the local rivalries do tend to be a thing. And then, of course, you have rivalries with other teams who are at par with you, but local rivalries always become feisty, especially because of the fans. And you could see with Messi and the way he was behaving, there was a certain feistiness to him that you don't always see. The autograph move that he did is going to be it's going to be a meme for the rest of the season in a good way, because he walked the talk. He basically said, "We are so good that we're going to let you score 2 goals on us, and then we're going to absolutely demolish you regardless." That's what happened yesterday. And that's what you want in a in a rivalry game, right? Their fans were loud, their fans were proud, they were shouting, and for good measure, it created a very, very fun environment to witness the game in. I'm sure the people who were at the stadium would have a lot of good things to say about the environment and the crowd. And then you could see as soon as it became 3-2, just a little bit of Inter Miami fan base noise going slightly higher up. And even the commentators were like, "Oh, the Inter Miami fans have finally woken up." So there was a lot going on. I thought the players showed a certain feistiness to them that I think is going to be a theme of the season, because we've seen Rodrigo de Paul be a little bit sharp, edgy, even in LA, even today. We'll see how that progresses. But as you said, in a rivalry game, you need somebody with a little bit of a edge to them. And Messi made sure, Rodrigo de Paul made sure the heads didn't drop at 2-0, came out in the second half and then just took the game away. Exactly how you want to beat a rival. And a rival that you expect to beat. I think it's even more fun when you let them get a 2-0 lead, give them a little bit of hope, and then suck all the hope out of them within 30 minutes of the second half. So it was a fun watch.
Messi has made it better. Orlando City being able to use him as a vehicle of their hatred, I think, has made it better. And him embracing that and saying, awesome, bring it on, I think has been also a big part of it. So I think there was a way Messi could have come in and just treated it like any other game and ignored it, and it maybe would have lost some of its luster. But it's been the opposite. He's fully embraced it, and I think has made it way better because of that from both sides. So I think it's really cool what this is, and I thought last night was just another example of that. And we've seen that before. I mean, the Leagues Cup semifinal last year I thought was similar, but that was in South Florida, and now Inter Miami's gotten their get up in Orlando, which I think also is something that had to happen before, as part of this.
Also, I think I'm right in saying this, but this was Messi's first game at Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took Messi for us to win there. So whatever said and done, at least we got that first W.
Okay, let's talk about the change at halftime. Inter Miami comes out in their 4-4-2, similar lineup to last week. Allende goes to the starting lineup instead of Silvetti, and we see Facundo Mura come in instead of Ian Frey. Other than that, it was the same 11 and same formation as last week. Doesn't go well. They're down 2-0 at halftime. At halftime, Javier Mascherano makes a change. He takes Noah Allen off as a left back, and he puts Mateo Silvetti on as a left winger. And of course, we've seen this over the course of Mascherano's tenure here. He likes to take a defender off and put an attacker on to create numbers when he's losing and wants to get a goal. It's a great tactic if it works. Last night, the wrinkle was Yannick Bright was given more responsibility defensively. And that allowed Mikhail to play more as a left-sided center back, like in sort of a more like a left back, if we're being honest. Maxi Falcone is sort of a sole center back. Facundo Mura kept his spot as the right back, and then Yannick Bright was kind of responsible for both the midfield and being a partner for Falcone. We can talk about what it meant defensively, but that's something we've seen from him a lot, from Mascherano a lot, and it's really effective at going forward. He gets the 2 goals right away, the first goal right away, and then the second goal a few minutes later. He stays with it until he gets the 3rd goal and the 4th goal. So, like, he wants to get the win. Why do you think it works so well, and what do you think of it?
Maybe we can talk about individual players when we do the awards. So let's talk about the tactics and the setup more specifically and the positioning. I was very confused when that happened, and I was very skeptical. I thought he was throwing Silvetti on, which was a good thing. Inter Miami needed a bit of width. Allende was not necessarily being involved on the right-hand side. I thought on the left-hand side, Silvetti, as soon as he came on, showed a little bit more. Inter Miami was able to build on that side better. And I actually didn't clock what the change was immediately. I had to look around to see who wasn't on the pitch. And then I saw it was Noah Allen. And I tried to understand what's the setup. Is Silvetti playing as a left wing back? What's happening? Only to realize, oh, Yannick Bright's actually moved into centre back. Mikhail is playing left back. A lot of things happening there. In terms of personnel and their positioning, I was very confused, but vindicated in the sense that I understood Mikhail can play left back. Realize Yannick Bright can actually maybe fit into that centre back role. But again, we can talk a little bit more about that. More specifically, I thought Silvetti gave a little bit more width on that side that Noah Allen was not offering. Berterame is not a left wing forward. He tends to drift more central. The shape automatically becomes a 4-4-2. So even Messi as a false 9 playing centrally, you see Berterame be a lot more narrower. There was nobody to stretch the field out. And as soon as you have Mateo Silvetti hugging that sideline, it was similar to what we saw against LAFC in the 20 minutes of that second half, where you would have the width on that side. You could stretch the ball out, stretch the Orlando defense, and then play through that channel. I think that worked really, really well. Putting Mikhail in left back was also a bit of a genius stroke because he could just focus on his defensive duties and allow Silvetti to focus on his offensive duties, which I really, really enjoyed. And then just generally, I thought Segovia and Messi as the 2 number 10s, Berterame playing as a floating 9, and then Tadeo Allende and Silvetti as the wingers added a lot more dynamism to our front line and allowed us to be not just narrow focused centrally, but also focus on the sidelines. That was my understanding of how it worked out, but you've rewatched the game, so tell me more about it.
I just think they decide to say, to heck with structure. Let's put good, talented offensive players higher up the field, and let's free them to go be good ball players. And when that happens, you have all of a sudden Segovia and Silvetti and Allende and Berterame and Messi. They just have so much freedom to do what they think is right in that moment and not have to worry about your defensive structure. And it is a interesting wrinkle because it is way more likely to produce goals than what you would normally do. It also leaves you a little bit more vulnerable in the back end, and that's the trade-off. We did see Orlando City create two or three half chances, including one off a corner. But in this league, I think, fairly comfortably think Inter Miami will outscore the opposition if they have a sort of structural advantage, and then you do start to overwhelm and intimidate, and I can't think, keep forgetting the third one.
Suffocate.
Yeah, you suffocate them, and if you're a young team like Orlando City, it does become intimidating and overwhelming, and you fail, you falter, and Inter Miami breaks through, and so it's a terrible decision if you give up the third goal in the first 3 minutes. And they did have an opportunity on a corner where Brecalo hits a header and hits the far
Post.
post. But that was, I think, an individual mistake by Maxi Falcone, or he loses his man on a corner. If you have the personnel that's playing effectively, isn't making mistakes, I think this team can get away with it. And then the result is you have all this offensive firepower up front that's just banging in goals, and that's how you score 4 goals in a half. And so I like it. I like that Javier Mascherano goes to it quickly. Is it going to cost us a game or two because the other team does get that third goal right away? Yeah, I think it will this season. But
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't happen in the CONCACAF Champions Cup or in the playoffs, I can live with that, because I think the other 8 times he does it, it's going to work, and Inter Miami is going to be much more dangerous going forward and create the goals they need to win the game. So I like it. I like it a lot.
I do want to give Javier Mascherano a bit more credit than you here, because a bit more than you've given him as well, because you've given him enough credit and I think he deserves that. But I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt in the sense that, yes, I think he did throw all the attacking players on and allowed them to discover it, but he also put them in places that they were most comfortable in. So I thought Berterame was able to be a lot more central as soon as Silvetti came on the left wing. So maybe that was something that helped Berterame get a little bit more involved. Messi just was like, I'm going to take command of this because you guys are not doing anything. So he was playing that floating 10 role instead of the false 9. Segovia became a lot more attacking as well. He basically played as that number 10 alongside Messi. So I thought, either inadvertently or by design, not sure, let's give Javier Mascherano the benefit of doubt. But the second half structure actually put players in positions where they thrive the most. And that's probably why we ended up scoring 4 goals without any answer. I will say Javier Mascherano in his post-match press conference mentioned that he would take the blame on the team selection and he shouldn't have exposed some players. I think he was referring to Noah Allen. I'm not sure if he would have started off with this formation, and I would have assumed he would have played Noah Allen as a left back regardless. So I think it had to be a tweak that you make in game. You can't necessarily start games with this formation or with this structure.
I want to have a conversation about Noah Allen. Stop me if you think we're going to have that in the awards section, or should we just have it now?
I think we can have it now.
Okay. Rewatched the game, and I didn't think Noah Allen had a particularly good half. Poor would maybe be how I would describe it. What I'm about to say is not an excuse, because he's a professional soccer player. This is what he gets paid to do. What they're doing right now is really hard for the left back, because your partner on that side, Segovia, likes to drift in, and you're not getting much help down the left channel. And you are being asked to be both an option going forward and also sound defensively. It is a lot of space to cover, and there's not really any help, because Segovia on that side is a guy that drifts central to have an impact. And he will come back defensively when it's structured, but for the most part, he's trying to drift centrally to be an impactful player. So it's really hard, and he's running a ton. And the answer to that is make better decisions on when to get forward, and that's something that Inter Miami's not had to worry about, because they've had impeccable instincts from that spot over the last couple of years. In the first half, on that second goal that they scored, it's the 24th minute, and he gets beat by Griffin Dorsey and looks tired already. And it's the 24th minute, and that ends up leading to the goal. And it's not that in that particular moment I thought he had, he didn't get himself back into the play or anything, but it was just man, he is doing a lot of work for very little impact on either side of the ball, because I think he's he's transitioning so much that it is difficult. Again, not saying that's an excuse because this is what he gets paid to do, and like it's a privilege to be a professional athlete, and we've seen it be done plenty of times. So it's not to say he wasn't born in this game, but it is really hard. And so the other thing that this change did was it put Silvetti high and wide on that side of the pitch, and it completely takes the responsibility away from the left back to be an outlet down the left side. And so we saw Mikael. I think everyone thought Mikael looked good as a left back. Guess what? He doesn't have to go high up the pitch and run back every single time because someone's expecting him to be up there and then also do the defensive work. He can really pick his moments to get forward going when you have the ball because he knows Silvetti is taking the brunt of the responsibility in possession high up and on the left. So it's hard. I think the answer is to move away from having your left back be responsible for the entire left side of left channel. So that's what I think the Noah Allen situation is. And I think that's another reason why the substitution in the second half looks so good, because all of a sudden you have play from the left side of the field and impact from that left wing spot, because Silvetti is not making 80, 60-yard sprints back defensively every minute and is able to just stay up there and be an impactful offensive piece. So I think that was another big part of why this was successful. You kind of now have a player on the left side that's impacting the game offensively. It opens things up. We talked about this years ago when we wanted Robert Taylor to play more on the left wing because we thought it opened up the back line. And I think once you get Silvetti out there, that's exactly what happens, and it makes it easier for the guys centrally, and it creates space, and then Inter Miami scores a bunch of goals, and it's a lot of fun. So that's another I think that's maybe also the big reason why it works.
Yeah, and I think a bigger lesson here is let the left wing, man. Let Silvetti be in that position and don't play him as a left midfielder. Allow him to hug the line, run the channels, and then let Noah Allen transition maybe into that Jordi Alba sort of a left back, but it's going to take time and it won't come as easily to him as it did to Jordi Alba. So yeah, not an excuse for his performance yesterday. I thought he was poor, but I think you make a good point about the explanation of why Noah Allen's struggling. And he is struggling.
And Lee makes a great point that I think is also relevant. He says, we won't know how Miami wants to play their left back until Reguilon comes back. Here's the thing. If your plan is to play Reguilon as this sole piece on the left side getting up and down, and you trust him to be good at that, then I think it does make sense to continue to play the team in that way and have Noah Allen struggle through that to keep everything else consistent so that you can kind of just drop Reguilon in when he comes back. I think there's merit to that and having the team figure out how to play that style. So we'll just see when that happens. But what I will say is I would not argue with anyone that says maybe we should put Facundo Mura on the left side and Ian Frey on at right back for the next game to see what it looks like, because I do think what we've seen from Mura so far is that he's got a little bit better instincts on when to be forward and when to be back. So I don't know if that translates to the left side, but I would not argue anyone that thought that was a worthwhile suggestion for next game.
I agree.
Anything else about this game? Or are you ready to get to awards?
Let's get to awards. I'm going first today, so I'm excited.
Okay. That's not the graphic we want up. That's the graphic we want up. Saur, I went first last week, so I will let you go first this week. But before you do, I will just remind everyone, after every game, we give out 6 awards, a Heron of the Match, a Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. Because I went first last week, you get to go first this week. Who you got? Man of the match in Inter Miami's 4-2 victory over Orlando City.
There were a lot of good players to pick from, especially in that second half, because a lot of impact coming off the bench, a lot of impact from players who weren't particularly good in that first half. But one player that stood out to me, stats show that as well, and maybe a couple of easy assists, but that's goal to get us ahead was everything. And Telasco Segovia, for me, Heron of the match. What a player. I think everyone who watches the Drive Ping dialogue knows that Scotty and I both love this player, and you have to get him on the pitch. You have to get the best of him centrally, And yesterday we saw exactly what he is as a player when he's combining alongside Messi in a number 10 slash number 8 position. Central midfielder Telasco Segovia is one of the best players on this pitch. And apart from Messi. And I would have given it to Messi, absolutely. I thought he was fantastic, above and beyond, as always. But I thought Telasco Segovia was deserving of this award, especially with that go-ahead goal that he had. So for me, Heron of the match, Telasco Segovia, great performance from him, and vindication for his team selection constantly, and he deserves these minutes, especially after being left out in the playoffs.
He has a knack for clutch goals, man. He really does. You know, you think about the Porto goal last year to help us win against a European giant. Lots of goals in the Leagues Cup that came in huge handy for Inter Miami,
Moments.
especially in that group phase. The Philadelphia goal that tied the game late that I thought really changed the trajectory of our season on the road last year. Like, he has clutch goals in his genes, and he gets another one last night. I thought he ran the game at some points in the second half. Like, really was making sure he got on the ball and then being the guy that dictated play. I thought it was really fun to see. I didn't even think he was that good in the first half, but he was so good in the second half that I agree with this. Finishes with a goal and 2 assists. Messi would have been a good shout out, although I do think we like to give a tie to the non-Messi player because of how many times Messi's going to win this over the course of the season. I would have given it to him too. I thought he was fantastic in this game, and again, it's just when he's playing in the part of the pitch that he thrives, he's fantastic. And so the question becomes: is he good enough and impactful enough in those spots to build your game plan around it? And I think we saw last night that the answer is kind of yes. But getting to yes for everyone, including the coaching staff and Messi and everyone, is a journey that's different for everyone. So I think we will get there, but it would not surprise me if we go back to sort of a standard 4-4-2 against DC United. But again, he's got this in him, and I think it's a lot of fun to watch.
And I think it allows some of the other players to unlock as well. Having somebody to play off of gives Messi a chance to create some space. I thought he had a good dummy run that allowed Messi to create the space for his goal that he scored as well before the free kick. He offers Rodrigo de Paul an option off the ball to play off of. So he does a lot in the middle of the pitch, very creative, and probably the only other player who can go toe-to-toe technically with the likes of Messi and Rodrigo de Paul. So fantastic performance from him, and hopefully long may this continue, and we'll see less and less of Segovia in that 4-4-2 flat midfield.
Okay. Heron that flew north. The player that was doing the wrong thing, yada, yada, yada. Here's what I will say. Because we're doing this episode at noon Eastern on the day after, on Monday, we had to submit our awards last night to the graphics department so that they could get the graphics ready instead of doing it, being able to do it in the hours before we do the show. Which means I had to pick the Heron of the Flew North without rewatching the game. And I am going to give this out to the player because that's what the graphics say we have to do. But it is not who I would give it to after rewatching the game. I want to make that perfectly clear. That said, Heron that flew north, Rodrigo de Paul. He has there was 2 terrible moments on the first goal, or bad moments on the first goal that Orlando City scored. A bad pass by him that leads to them getting an opportunity. I thought Dane St. Clair had should have made the save. So two players, and I had to pick one. I thought Dane St. Clair made more moments later in the game happen to sort of redeem himself. I feel the same way about Rodrigo de Paul now that I rewatched the game, and I would have given this award to Maxi Falcone if I did not rewatch the game. But sticking with the graphics department, Rodrigo de Paul, Heron that flew north. Go ahead and tell me why he was way better than that.
Oh, he was brilliant, actually. When I watched the game again, I was actually I was hitting myself for why I went with Rodrigo de Paul as a poor player yesterday when we were doing the player ratings. I thought he was the only one who was creating those line-breaking passes in the final third and creating those opportunities in front of goal. He put Messi in a couple of times. He put Berterame in once. He put Allende in a couple of times. And this was after he made that mistake of giving the ball away. I thought that giving the ball away was the one only problem that I saw from his entire performance. He was brilliant. His ball carrying ability is showing even more so. I think the fact that he no longer has to defer to Sergio Busquets' pace and tempo and is the one setting the tempo is seeping through the team as well. He's coming into his own as the orchestrator of the midfield, and he's got a couple of really good tool sets in his arsenal. Well, tools in his arsenal. One is the carrying the ball that he does phenomenally. I don't think anybody else in the MLS can carry the ball the way he does, other than Messi. And
Not
then
from the midfield.
his
Not from the
not from
midfield.
the midfield, and then through the through balls that he has in the final third. I think we're going to benefit from those later in the season once everyone's on the same page. They're not coming off right now, and right now you get them chalked off as incomplete passes. But when the runs start being in the right direction, when everyone is on the same page, those through balls will actually start to convert to chances, and those chances will eventually convert to goals. And that's when we will see Rodrigo de Paul's influence in the game more and more. Uh, the midfield's clicking, man. We said that in the LAFC game. We're saying that now. I think this Rodrigo de Paul Bright midfield has a lot to offer, and that's a good place to be as an Inter Miami fan because we were very worried about the midfield. So two-man midfield actually working is surprising, and Rodrigo de Paul is a big part of that. I know this is the Heron that flew north award, so we gave it to him because Scotty jumped the gun, and also because I've kind of forced him into this position as well. Because you had a couple of other players, I would have given it to Noah Allen myself. So, and we've talked about Noah Allen already.
Yeah, just to say, like I thought Max Chipacone had a poor game. It was
I
a
thought
poor,
he was very poor
it was
as
a
well.
poor performance. Yeah. Probably most responsible for that second goal, loses Ojeda. But actually, I thought there was a couple worse moments from him that just didn't convert to goals. The header that we talked about that Orlando City had in the second half, Brekalo, who gets the header, was Max Chipacóne's man. He loses him. He gets beat for pace by Ojeda at one point in the second half and has to get bailed out by Dane St. Clair, who has a nice save. So I would have gone with Maxi Falcone. But yeah, leave it to me to turn the Heron that flew north into a positive. I agree with you. He had two sort of dunks in the final third, too messy inside the box that Crepeau makes good saves on. I thought it was good for an assist, honestly. And I agree with you. I thought he was really good in this game. He did have 24 turnovers, which is higher than you'd want. But, well, maybe we should just talk about it now. I don't think has ever been responsible for running the entire game by himself in the midfield, like he is trying to assume right now, that responsibility. At Atletico Madrid, I'm sure, I wasn't watching them, and I don't watch Argentina, we've been honest about that, but he's got so many talented players around him in the midfield at Madrid, with the Argentine national team, that it feels to me there's no way he is trying to take control of the midfield all by himself. And it has felt like he's trying to do that in the last two games. And I like it. Little bit more mistake prone, but again, it's been 2 games. Give him 10 and he might be fantastic at it. So I'm not concerned about it, but the number of turnovers was a little high in this game. But again, I thought he played pretty well. I really did. Okay, what is your first award?
My first award is the Whole New Sport Award.
The Whole New Sport Award.
A Whole New Sport Award, actually.
A Whole New Sport Award. This goes, obviously, to Dane St. Clair because he's just an outfield player now, playing a whole different sport. Doesn't know how to save shots, but he's controlling the ball with his feet like a champ. Boom.
No. This award is based on a piece of knowledge we gained yesterday. A player in the centre-back role, playing almost as a hybrid midfielder, hybrid centre-back, is referred to as a libero. And a libero is a term that is associated with volleyball. It's actually exclusively used in volleyball for the player that is most responsible for the offense and defense side of things. I don't know. I used to play volleyball back in the day. Don't know exactly how the libero position works. But in football, yesterday, we saw Yannick Bright play the libero role, which is almost like a whole new world, a whole new sport for him. And I was very confused in the first instance. I was so confused as to why we moved Yannick Bright into the back line. I was glad he's not off the pitch, but didn't think he would be able to do that role. I think there's potential here, man. We might have unlocked something new. We might have unlocked something unique. And moving forward, I think now Javier Mascherano seeing Yannick Bright actually fit that mold and play in that position comfortably after the first 5 minutes gives him an option that he can revert to in case we need it. Really enjoyed his performance in the midfield already. I thought he had some fantastic through balls, a couple of good balls over the top, great interceptions. Wasn't necessarily the best in transitions because we did concede 2 goals, but I don't think he was responsible for any of the transition moments. But then when he was used as that libero position with that centre back central midfield role, I thought he did really well and came into his own in that position. And that's why I wanted to give him this award. A whole new sport award, almost like playing volleyball.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it because I had a good
Because
award for it.
I stole your award. I know. I knew it. You gave me too many chances, man.
I was gonna give him the all action supernova. Here's what I'll be honest. I think making the headline about what happened in the second half is not even the right way to think about that performance because he deserved. There's like two totally different games that I think are both interesting, and by only focusing on his role in the second half, it kind of diminishes what he did in the first half, where I thought he was way better. I thought he was way better in the first half, the best player on the field for Inter Miami. What he's doing in the midfield and completely establishing himself as a do everything midfielder that gets forward, that does the defensive work, that is part of ball progression, that is combining high up the field with guys like Messi and so on and so forth, and being a part of the attack in the final third, I thought was just so fun to watch. And the fact that his teammates trust him in that type of role and that he's a part of it, and we know you kind of have to earn Messi's trust before you're going to get the ball from him consistently. That I thought was like really cool in and of itself. He's a complete midfielder that is not just being a destroyer that cleans things up. He is being a guy that is doing everything, all action, supernova in the midfield. They're supernova in the midfield combined, DePaul and Yannick Bright, because I think they do a fantastic job together. Deserves an award for his development in the other aspects of his midfield play. And then in the second half, he gets an entirely different role that I think is also worth an award, where that is something we only ever saw from Sergio Busquets, and they trust Yannick Bright to do it. Not really a center back. I rewatched the game. He's not really playing next to Maxi Falcone. He's playing ahead of Maxi Falcone for much of that second half, but is like a midfielder given the responsibility to do both the midfield work and the center back work. And I thought he did a fine job. There's one moment where he gets beat by Ojeda on sort of a bouncy ball where he misplays it. Then he recovers and forces, dislodges the ball from Ojeda. So, like, what we saw from him on the field in the first half, I thought was really cool. But the overall big picture, and especially what we saw in the second half, is just the trust that Mascherano and his teammates have in him. And clearly they see not just from his play, but from the film and from what they do in practice, that he can handle it. And like I thought gave us the flexibility to make the change that won the game for us last night. So big shout out to Yannick Bright.
All right, take us into your first award.
Okay, I'm giving the Bishop, Rook, or Queen award.
I already like the reference. the Bishop, Rook, or Queen award. Well, the Bishop moves diagonal, the Rook moves forward and backward and sideways, and the Queen moves in all four of those directions. So I'm trying to think who we haven't given an award to. Is this award to Silvetti? Because he started off as a bishop, then developed into a rook, and now is finally playing like a queen. Now that makes no sense. I'm just going to say Silvetti because I don't know who else you're going to give it to. Maybe Messi or Silvetti? Who are you giving it
goes to Herman Berterame. Because here's what's happening. It happened 4 times last night. It happened a couple times against LAFC. He is cutting in front of the defender, making a diagonal run. And Messi or DePaul is shooting through the gap as if he's making a run behind the defender and he's beating him for pace. And if he's a rook, he makes straight line runs in behind the defense. And that's what Messi and DePaul are expecting him to do. If he's a bishop, he's making those diagonal runs in front of the defender. And that's not where Messi and DePaul are expecting him to be, but that's the run he keeps making. And so for the foreseeable future, I think they need to figure out, are you running in behind or are you making the diagonal run in front? I think the run in behind sets Berterame up better for a shot. And Messi and DePaul have the quality, and it's difficult because you have to have the right touch to be able to let it sit for him. They want him to make the run in behind because that sets up a better shot for him. But he hasn't probably played with a ton of teammates that have, well, he hasn't played with any teammates that have the quality of a Lionel Messi to put the ball and have it sit right where he needs it to. So the pass is easier if he makes the diagonal run. The shot is easier if he makes the straightforward run in behind. They are on the wrong page with each other. He needs to be a bishop or a rook for the next couple weeks to get him going and to get them on the same page. Eventually, I think he will become a queen, which is the most powerful piece in chess that can do everything. But for right now, I think he needs to decide, is he a bishop or a rook? And eventually he can become a queen. And I knew you would love this award. Boom, Herman Berterame.
And that's checkmate. I'm not even going to say anything to that because I think you deserve the last word in it. So well done. Yeah, no notes, man. you take the glory on this one. I thought that was a brilliant award.
You can see it's there. It's
It's
just
so there.
that they're making the wrong decisions, like collectively. Like either one could be the right decision if they make them in unison, but they're just not making them in unison. And so,
And I think you mentioned this conversation in the post-game raw reaction yesterday evening. And you asked me, are you worried about Berterame? And one of the reasons I'm not that worried about him is because he's still making the runs. He has the movement. He is doing things in the pitch that I can see, okay, the instinct is there. It's just not clicking with the team. And once that happens, I think he's going to be unlocked. So I'm looking forward to him evolving into a queen eventually. But fantastic award.
okay, what you got for me?
Now I feel bad giving this one.
You want to follow that up?
It's a terrible award in comparison, but I'm going to give the Moonwalk Award.
Oh, the Moonwalk Award. Michael Jackson's doing some moonwalking. Who is celebrating with who's walking it back? Who is? Are you walking something back because you had a thought and you're changing your opinion? Okay. I don't know if that applies to anyone. So I'm going with Mateo Silvetti because he deserves an award for a beautiful goal that kickstarted our comeback.
No, I actually had an award for Mateo Silvetti, but we're not going to get to it. The Moonwalk Award for the player that was very smooth with his feet yesterday, and that was Dane St. Clair. He was moonwalking everywhere. People criticized him a lot over the last 2 weeks. For good measure, he made some errors with his shot stopping, which is, I think, one of his better parts of the game. I think the scrutiny is too high on him. And I'm probably going to get chewed out in the chat for this, but you have to give him time. There were calls for him being poor because he wasn't good with his feet. Yesterday, I think he was flawless with his feet. He was brilliant with his feet, under pressure, finding the right angles, moving the ball around, passing it into the fullback, passing it into the centre back. There was one moment where he was just passing it into the midfield, got it back, and then passing it away again. And I thought that was so well done. I thought he had a bad moment in that first goal that we conceded. Should have saved that. No excuses there, and probably docks him a few points. But after that, he had a couple of really good saves in the box. Maybe stopped us from going down 3-2 with that one-on-one save that he had with his feet that Orlando had in the second half. So overall, a good performance, maybe a above average performance given his error in that goal. But I thought he was very good with his feet and deserved to be talked about.
Yeah, two parts to this. First of all, Gotta let these guys get an opportunity to show what they're made of. Everyone that was talking about Dane St. Clair and his ability with his feet in the preseason, it was nonsense. It was nonsense. It was nonsense. He is fine. He's fine. He's totally comfortable. He is not nervous. He's doing everything he's supposed to. He's getting out of danger without a speed of sweat on his head. He's good with his feet. I think we can all put that to rest now. Anyone saying that he should be benched because he's not good enough with his feet or he can't play with his team because he's not good with his feet, you're just saying nothing. Like, you're just not, that's just nonsense. Okay. That aside, let's talk about his performance. He gives up a goal he should have saved.
Absolutely.
You can't do that every game. And he did it last game. Well, he had a goal allowing error last game. That's one every game. You can't do that as a goalkeeper. So let's be clear. Like, he hasn't had a good start to the season overall. We are looking for things to be positive about because he's a new signing and we're excited to see the full force of his game. And I think you make a good point. The fact that he's way better with his feet than anyone was expecting him to be or talking about him as in the offseason is like a nice bonus. Hasn't been good over the course of 2 games though, from like raw output perspective, even if he's had good moments. He's not going to get benched. I think everyone needs to calm down with the conversations. Do I think Rocco Rios Novo makes that save last night? I do. I think Drake Callender makes that save. Here's the thing. I would have predicted Dane St. Clair makes that save because that's what his superpower is, making those types of saves. And so the fact that he's not made it last night is frustrating, and maybe that is him showing us who he is as a player and that in Miami he's not going to be the god shot stopper that he was in Minnesota. But he was a god shot stopper in Minnesota, and they paid him to be the number 1, and they brought Rocco in to be the number 2. He is going to get the longest of leashes. I would be shocked if we see Rocco Rios Novo in the next 3 months. And so anyone thinking we are 1 game away from seeing Rocco, I think needs to calm down. And it's not because I don't think Rocco's a good goalkeeper. I think he is a good goalkeeper. But with the status and respect that Dane St. Clair has in the league and in this game and with everyone other than Inter Miami fans at this moment, he is going to get a very long leash. Can't give up a goal every game, though. Can't do it
He
as a goalkeeper.
should get a long leash.
Yes,
I'm not sure
right.
if he will, though.
I think I'm very confident he will. The other thing I'll say is, we never talked about this on the podcast. The Athletic does a anonymous survey of MLS front office people every year at the beginning of the season, and everyone, like Dane St. Clair, had half the league say he's the single most talented goalkeeper in the league. So just to give you an idea, that's what the MLS front office people that do this for a living think. He's going to get it. I think he's going to get it. I don't think we're going to see Rocco overtake him at any point, almost no matter how bad he plays. And if it gets so bad that something needs to change, like I think it'll be Dane St. Clair moving on the team in the summer, not Rocco sort of overtaking him, is my honest opinion. That said, I do think Rocco makes that save. So, what do I know? Okay. Anything else on Dane St. Clair?
Take it home.
Again, we made these awards last night after midnight. Tough. This one's a little bit of a messed up award. I'm giving the Baseball Card Dealer Award.
The Baseball Card Dealer Award. Jordi Alba doesn't play for this team anymore.
Here's
Facundo
my
Mura.
hint. Here's my hint. The logic got reversed in my head late at night, so reverse the logic.
Okay, I don't even know what the logic is, so I can't reverse it. I'm just going to say it's to... Oh, well, Maxi Falcone, you haven't given an award to. Mikhail. I'm going to give it to Mikhail because I thought he was deserving of an award. Maybe Silvetti. Oh, I'm so confused, man. I feel like I'm still sleepy. Give it to Mikhail. Give it to Mikhail.
Baseball cards of famous baseball players, or any sports card, I'm sure, they become more valuable over time and as the player does well. The better the player, the more valuable the card. But you know what makes a card even more valuable?
If it's in mint condition and untouched.
Sure. You know what else?
No.
If it has the player's autograph on it.
Oh, yeah.
And you know who was willing to give out an autograph to the Orlando City bench last night? One Lionel Messi. Could have been the man of the match for this game. Phenomenal performance. I thought, again, if he and Bertrame get on the same page, he's going to finish with 2 goals and 2 assists every single game. Like, it is, he's picked up his form from last season. He was making the darting runs in behind. Rodrigo de Paul was finding him. I thought he would have had another goal if it wasn't for a couple of really nice saves by Maxime Crepeau. Obviously puts 2 in. Maybe the reason he couldn't score in the first half was because he was going to score 2 later, and we know the gods of MLS don't like him getting a hat trick. Fantastic performance, deserving of a big award, and then everything we talked about for the rivalry, everything we talked about for the intensity of these first 2 games. I think Messi has magnified all of that and been a huge part of all of that. So the fact that he goes to the Orlando City bench and offers them an autograph, I thought was awesome. One of the defining visuals of this rivalry, and will be for a very long time. Super fun to watch, made the game way more fun, and obviously gets the equalizer on a beautiful goal, and gets the 4th extra cookie goal for funsies on the free kick. Fantastic performance from Lionel Messi.
So what you're saying is in his free time, Lionel Messi signs baseball cards and sells them on eBay. That's what he does.
Well, I would imagine he would sign soccer cards, not baseball cards,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Oh man, what a performance. I think he's one of the players that I'm no worries about since the season started. I think a couple of seasons ago, there was a bit of a worry. Oh, is he a little bit injured? Is he back in his form? Last season, he was flawless throughout. This season, he started in the exact same way that he left off last season. He looks sharp. He looks ready. I think he's so ready for that World Cup. And people are going to be surprised. Those who don't watch the MLS,
CONCACAF Champions Cup, I think is what you meant to say.
CONCACAF champion. No, yes, he's ready for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. He's also ready for the World Cup in the summer. And people who don't watch the MLS are going to be very surprised at the level of his match sharpness and how he still continues to do what he does best, man. The passing, the dribbling, the shooting, it's all there. What a player. And we're so grateful to be able to watch him for Inter Miami.
I think the thing that is really cool is, and I agree with you, I think the last 3 months of last season, we saw the absolute best version we've seen of Lionel Messi, and he's continued that this season so far. The scary thing is he's going to add another assist or 2 like every game once the entire offense starts clicking, especially with Bertrame. So, he's going to continue playing this well and then also add another assist to it every single game. It's going to be really fun to watch. And he had to get an award because he was awesome last night.
Anyone else? He had 65 goal contributions?
I think 68.
He's already got 3 this season in 2 games, and he didn't even play that well in the first game. So we're off to the races.
Off to the races. Anyone else you want to talk about? Tadeo Allende gets his first start. I thought it was quintessential Tadeo Allende performance. No concerns there. Facundo Moura gets his first start. I thought he was solid. Nothing to complain about. If he's going to give that level, you can be happy with that. Falcone did not get an award. I mentioned him for the Heron that flew north. When I rewatched the game, he was, to me, the obvious Heron that flew north. I thought this was his worst game in a long time. Last year, he was a very up and down player and then got it to be consistently high at the end of the season. We kind of hoped he would be consistently high this whole season. Maybe that's not what we're going to get based on last night's performance. Mikel, I thought, was much better. Plays a little bit as a left back. I don't think anyone thinking Mikel can play left back is you just have to make sure there's a left winger on that side of the pitch. I don't think he can do the role that they were asking Noah Allen to do either. So,
no.
I wouldn't take that too far, but he did it admirably last night and it helped us get the win. So, Noah Allen, we talked about. So, I don't know. Gonzalo Lujan, anyone else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's about it. Overall, just happy that we came away with a win.
I have one more thing I wanted to talk about earlier, and I forgot. This roster's pretty thin. The bench is pretty thin. He wasn't going to go to the bench at any point after Silvetti last night. Mascherano wasn't going to unless They got a 2-goal lead, and then he might put a defender on. But as long as that game was still within reach for either team, that was the 11 he was going with once Silvetti came on the field. Ian Frey, maybe, but I don't think he trusts Santi Morales, David Ruiz, Daniel Pinto, Alexander Shaw. So with Suarez out, with David Ajala unavailable, and with Sergio Reguilon out, the bench is pretty thin. Mostly because Mascherano doesn't trust some of the young guys, and maybe we would, but it is pretty thin.
I think his substitutions were fine yesterday, so it didn't come to a head. But yeah, with a couple of signings that you mentioned that are out for the next couple of games, it did look thin even in the pre-game show yesterday. But I think we'll be okay. Thankfully, the players on the pitch found the solutions.
Well, it helps having superstar players for sure. And you know what? Just one last appreciation. That was a really fun game. I enjoyed watching that game. Even when we were losing, it was a very competitive, high energy, great atmosphere game. Like if the first 2 games of this season are an indication of what this whole year is going to be like, I think it's going to be really fun. A lot of great atmospheres and environments, and hopefully more wins than losses. But yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts, sir?
No, man. I think we've regurgitated this quite a few times, but if you lose to this Orlando team, it's an embarrassment. But the fact that you can come back, win, and score 4 goals unanswered, make it feel good for the fans, put on a good show in that second half, and honestly, make it a good game. I thought that was all for the good. Great psychological comeback win, and now we can move on for the rest of the season. We've got that win against the rivals. We started off our season, and now it's only upwards. And the one thing I really like about this Inter Miami team is it's getting incrementally better every game. And I'm hoping that next game we look even better. And then eventually, come that Nashville game, we're going to be ready to kick their butts.
Yeah, we played DC United this weekend and then Nashville the following Tuesday. So
yeah,
this was a huge second half from a momentum and feel good and confidence perspective, I think. And you still got to get the Berterame thing figured out, but certainly we all feel much more confident now than we did 24 hours ago. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We'll be back sometime this week for a midweek episode, and then, of course, Saturday for the game. But until then, I hope you guys have a lovely night, a lovely time, lovely week, and we'll see you guys next time. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this, and have a wonderful day.